إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Praise be to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, the One, having no partner. And I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is His slave and messenger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladheen amanu taqqallaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, fear Allah as you should be feared, and die not except in a state of Islam. Inshallah, my dear brothers and sisters, today's khutbah is going to be about the concept of da'wah. And I would like to use this khutbah as a platform to, inshallah, to address certain issues which I've noticed within the ISOC, but also Muslims in general, inshallah. But before I begin, I just want to mention a couple of points. Now, alhamdulillah, in parallel to my degree, I'm doing chemical engineering, I'm also doing life coaching, and we look at studies of psychology and sociology. And I wanted to understand the problems within the art of communication. Why are there so many divorce rates? Why are there so many business failures? And the problem comes down again and again to communication. And this is related to the khutbah. And subhanallah, I started looking at this in sociology books and psychology books. But when I started entering the tafsir, the answers were all in the Quran. The answers are all there. So subhanAllah, the first point that I want to make is that any problem that you have, don't make the same mistake I did and go to the Quran. The Quran has advice for absolutely everyone. The second thing that I want to mention was that when I was writing the khutbah for this today morning, I was having a problem with regards to keeping everything under control. Because when I was reading the tafsir of one verse, the commentary mentioned another verse, so I looked at the tafsir of that verse and it kept going on and on and on and on. And I just kept saying to myself, subhanallah, when will this ever end? There is no end to the beauty of the Quran, subhanallah. So this is the two things that I want to share with you, so inshallah, after the khutbah, you can also try and reflect upon the beauty of the Quran, inshallah. So, I wanted to start off, right, the prophetic application of da'wah, right? The prophetic application of da'wah. And the first verse I'm going to quote is verse 45 and 46 from Surah 33. O Prophet, we have sent you as a witness and a bearer of good news, and a warner as one who calls people towards Allah with His permission, and as a luminous lamp. Okay? So understand that the first external deed which the prophets were commanded to do, after they embodied the message of Tawheed, after they practiced it within themselves, was to go out to society and call other people to Islam. Right? And I just want to mention a few gems which it had from this specific verse. Now it metaphorically mentions that the Prophet ﷺ is like a light, right? And this light is described as a lamp. Now one could question, right, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not say the sun? Because the sun is, a lot brighter, a lot fiercer than a simple lamp. And subhanAllah, some of the Mufassir mentioned that the sun, it only illuminates partial, surface of the world, right? It only illuminates a partial fraction of it. And it's not available all the time, right? Nor is it approachable. And you cannot go to the sun. You always have a certain distance you have to stay away from the sun. And whenever there's sun, day at one place, there's night at another place. So it's not, 360 degrees. There's a day in one place and night another day. But the lamp illuminates the inside of the whole world and the hearts of the believers. SubhanAllah. And it's available all the time. And you can always pick up a lamp and you can go close to it. And more importantly, you can approach close to it. Whereas the sun, you cannot. SubhanAllah, there are these specific, words which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses so you can ponder and reflect over the beauty. So the first thing I want you to understand that this is prophetic character. That once you've instilled the belief of Allah, once you've practiced it, now it's up to you to go out and also help others do the same. This is an obligation upon us, right? And this is, relaying back to Surah Al-Asr. I keep mentioning this surah again and again because subhanallah, Imam Shafi was so right when he said that, if you could scrap out all the surahs except one, it would be Surah Al-Asr, because everything you need for guidance is in this surah. Now if you look at the last verse, it says 4 things. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Right? So the third thing it mentions, وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, call others to the truth. Call others to the truth. And tawaso, the root word of tawaso is wasiyah. Means it's the best advice someone can give you, which is the best action you can do at that specific moment in time. Right? It also means a will. So if somebody leaves a will behind, this is what needs to be carried out. So understand that going out and giving da'wah to others is part of your obligation. We keep forgetting that it is part of your obligation. In another verse, in Surah Imran, verse 104, it says, "And there has to be a group of people from among you who call towards the good and bid the fair and forbid the unfair. And it is these who are successful." Right? If you remember, I did a khutbah before on brotherhood. So verse 102, it talks about taqwa. Verse 103, it talks about the brotherhood. And it then extends to this right after that. It talks about now calling other people to Islam. Call other people to Islam. And in another place, in the same surah, Surah Al-Imran, in verse 110, it says, "You are the best ummah raised for mankind. You bid the fair and forbid the unfair." So it's our responsibility, the ummah of Islam, it is our responsibility to help mankind and to give this message to them. This is our responsibility, right? Now, da'wah, the concept of da'wah doesn't just immediately apply to non-Muslims. It's also da'wah within Muslims as well. This is a misconception that some people tend to have. Da'wah is for both, for Muslims and also within the community itself. And there are 2 hadiths which I wanted to relate to show the importance of da'wah. "By him in whose my hand is my life, you must bid the fair and forbid the unfair, lest Allah inflicts upon you a severe punishment. You shall then pray to Him for mercy, but your prayer shall not be answered." And this is in Tirmidhi. Another hadith, and this is a more famous one. "Whoever among you sees an evil that is being committed, then he should change it with his hands, and he should take action. And if he's unable to do that, then he has to speak with his words, and use his tongue. At least go out and say it's wrong. And if he's unable to do that, then he must acknowledge it in his heart." And this is the weakest level of iman. Right? So understand the importance that it is an obligation upon you. I'm going to keep mentioning this again and again and again, because we need to get this point across. That we don't have responsibility just for ourselves. I've seen many people, brothers and sisters, I've done my Quran and Sunnah, I've prayed my 5 prayers a day, khalas, that's it, I've done my obligation. No, this is not the right way to do. If you look at the examples of the prophets, if you look at the examples of the Sahaba, not only would they fulfill their personal obligation to Allah, but societal obligation. Right? Don't forget this concept. Now, there are actually 2 main pillars of da'wah. Right? And this is the key component of this khutbah which I want people to focus on. It says in the Quran, verse 125 in Surah 16, "Invite people to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good counsel, and argue or debate with them in the best of manners." Okay? In Arabic it says, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'idati al hasana." Right? Now, Mufassirs have taken away 2 main points, right? And this is the same 2 main points which I found from my other studies. There are 2 main pillars of communication or da'wah. The first one is hikmah. And hikmah, there are many definitions in the Quran for hikmah, but I found the most definite one. And it says, al-hikmah means the insight through which one finds out the dictates of circumstances and talks as appropriate relatively. Occasion as would not put a burden on the addressee. Employs lenience when lenience is called for, and firmness when firmness is called for. And where he thinks the addressee would be embarrassed by saying something frankly, there he should use hints to communicate or employ a change of subject and approach in a way that neither embarrasses the addressee, nor feeds him with the thought of sticking by his prejudice. Right? Sorry. Yeah. So this is the main point of al-hikmah. It's to understand that you have to have wisdom behind it. This is the first pillar of da'wah. The first pillar of da'wah. You must have the knowledge and you must have the understanding how to speak to the person. Okay? Then the second one, good counsel. Okay? Ma'wid al-hasan. It's to say something in the spirit of wishing well in a manner that will make the heart of the addressee soft and arable, tuned to accept what you're saying. Tuned to accept what you're saying. Now, in the Mufassirs have also commented why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically put the word hasana right after maw'id. Why? It's to emphasize the point. Do not use insulting or hurtful language, right? To make sure that the person who you're giving da'wah to, he understands what you're saying, right? You pretty much relay all the doubts away. You make sure that he apprehends what you're saying. Everything makes sense to him. And it is for their best interest. It is for their best interest. Now, subhanAllah, I have seen many brothers and sisters who know the Quran and Sunnah like the back of their hand, mashallah, mashallah. But when it comes to giving da'wah, they're emotionally illiterate. There's a way to speak to people. There's a way to speak to people. We tend to forget this concept. We tend to go down on, sometimes maybe non-practicing brothers or sisters, or some people who are weak in iman, they do a small mistake, and we go thrashing on them. This is not the prophetic character. This is not prophetic character. Let me give you 2 case studies, right? This is something I found out from ISOCs around the world, and also MSAs, which is ISOCs in America and Canada. There were 2 incidents I want to share with you to show you the example of what kind of stupidity it can lead to if you don't give da'wah the right way, right? There was a sister. There was a sister in one of the MSAs. She wasn't a hijabi, right? She wasn't hijabi, and she decided to wear hijab. But she wanted to do it for the correct reasons. But she felt that she wasn't doing it at that specific time for the correct reasons. It was just because of social pressure. So she took it off. Now, forget this aside whether this is wrong or right. Forget this. This is that person's obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's that person's own authority. Now, a sister, an elder sister, went up to this sister and she absolutely flipped on her. She called her kuffar. She said, you're going to go to Jahannam with all the nifaq and everything. Okay? Another instance, a brother who had a full beard, mashallah, he had a full beard, right? And he decided to shave it off completely, okay? Again, forget it if this is right or wrong. This is that person's, command to Allah. Yani this is with him and Allah, not with us. Our job is just to give that person nasiha. A brother, okay, an elder brother, they abused him, right? They harassed him, and they embarrassed him in front of the entire school. The entire school, okay? Now, my question to these sort of people, right, is what was your thought process like? Imagine in the future, inshallah, if this brother or this sister decide to wear hijab or to get a beard in the future, they will now always associate this negative event with this thing. So how are you helping Islam? By talking like this, by condescending, by looking down upon people. What sort of behavior is this? Is this prophetic character? Would the Prophet ﷺ behave like this? This is something that's, it's incredibly stupid. I find it very, very, saddening that we have people like this within our ummah. And this is something we need to get rid of. Now the Mufassir, they have mentioned, some, bullet points on advice on how to give da'wah. And this is something I want you guys to focus on, right? Now, you're supposed to make sure that when you speak to the other person, you speak with such blessing and mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon yourself. There's a hadith that says, make things easy and do not make things difficult. And give good news of mercy of Allah and do not disappoint or alienate them. Right? Do not disappoint or alienate them. These people, which I just talked about in the previous incident, did they not disappoint them? Did they not treat them with the opposite of mercy? They treat them so badly that these people were crying. SubhanAllah. Another advice. The Prophets made sure that their addressees were not insulted nor disgraced. And if you look at some of the commentators, they mentioned that whenever the Prophets started addressing people, they said, Ya qawmi, O my people. And it's to establish a sense of brotherhood that when I'm talking to you, we're brothers, okay? Or we're in the same field. I just want to talk to you. Talk to me as just on a relative basis. I'm not an alien to you. I want to talk to you on the same field, humanitarian level. And these people, are they talking on the same level? No. Condescending, looking down upon people. Is this prophetic character? Another advice, right? They said that da'wah is it's supposed to be an action that calls the addressee closer to the caller. I'll repeat that. It calls the addressee, so the person you're addressing to, closer to the caller. Ththese people I mentioned in the incident, do you think they'll ever be best friends now? are they ever even going to be close? There's something we need to think upon. And Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he mentioned a beautiful quote. Wallahi, a beautiful quote. It says, if you want to advise someone, or if you want to tell someone something about the deen or whatever it may be, right? You talk to them politely and privately. And this is advice. If you talk to them publicly and disgrace them, this is vice. SubhanAllah, such profound words from Imam Shafi rahimahullah, right? Go back to that incident I mentioned about the sister and the brother. Do you think they dealt with them in a public manner or a private manner? They flipped out, embarrassed him in front of so many people. SubhanAllah, this is not prophetic character. And people need to understand that you need to keep your cool down. If you see something wrong, okay, fine. But when you go out and give advice, you speak to them with the best of tongues. The best of tongues. And my final point is this incident. And this is the most beautiful thing I have ever read on speaking politely with people. Right? Now, Surah Taha, Surah number 20, verse 44, it says, speak to him in gentle words. Maybe he takes advice or fears. So this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Musa alayhi salam to go speak to Fir'aun. Right? Go speak to Fir'aun. Now, get 2 points established in your mind. Fir'aun was a kafir. He was the worst of the worst. He was a kafir. Musa alayhi salam, okay, he was instructed to speak to Pharaoh in a gentle and kind manner. Now there was an incident, okay, a man came to Umayyad Khalif Abdul Malik and said to him, O commander of the faithful, I want to advise you and my advice will be harsh. Okay, and I'm going to be blunt with you, right? And then the Caliph said, no, my brother, do not be harsh on me. If God, Allah sent Musa, and Musa is better than you to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh is worse than me, then why be harsh on me, my brother? Why be harsh on me, my brother? So understand this. There are 2 pillars of da'wah, right? The first is wisdom, the content, whatever you know about Islam. But the second is emotional intelligence. Learn how to speak properly. Learn how to speak properly. And subhanAllah, the way you speak can make a huge difference. You can make, just because of your character, you can get shahadas. Just because of your character, you can make other person a better Muslim than you. Understand this importance. This is such a thing, this is an amazing thing which we don't seem to get the grasp of for some reason. So please, 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 if anything, understand this. 2 pillars of da'wah. Content, hikmah, okay? And the other one is the etiquette. Learn the etiquettes of speaking in a kind and polite manner with people. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Alright, so the first part of the khutbah, I wanted to focus that on the person giving the da'wah. And the second part of the khutbah, I just want to just share one simple advice to the one who's being addressed. Okay? Now, myself, I only started practicing 3 years ago. I was a blind Muslim. I used to have my Jahiliyyah days, right? I was a blind Muslim. And if you grow up in an environment where you're not controlled by Islam or any religion, you begin to get very arrogant, right? Your heart becomes so hard that you don't want to listen to anyone. You think you're the best in everything. And my state was like this when I first started Islam. So the biggest challenge for me personally, was to learn how to control my arrogance, how to control my humbleness for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Now, this is a given fact. There are always going to be some people who just literally don't know how to be polite when they give advice. They're very harsh, they're very blunt. Very harsh, very blunt, right? And without a shadow of doubt, you're going to meet such people in your life, no doubt. However, now this is advice to the people who get advice, right? When you get people like this in your lives, okay? When you get people like this and they're talking down upon you, they're talking harshly at you, right? I want you to make sure that when this happens, try and forget about, like the negativity about it. Try and forget that. And understand and question yourself this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is, He's operating everything that's around you. The way a leaf falls, how it ends up in South Africa from UK, the way a bird flies from this country to other, the way you get your food, the way you get your drink, right? All this is controlled by Allah. Ask yourself this question. why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from all these things, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring this person to talk like this to me in this life? Why? And that's what I use personally as a means to humble my heart. Because it was very, very difficult for me personally to get rid of my arrogance or to diminish my arrogance. Right? So this is my advice to you. And I'm just going to conclude very, very quickly of this entire khutbah. Right? First thing, it was prophetic missions of the prophets. After they embodied and understood the message of Tawheed, of Islam, they would go out and speak to others and invite others to the message of Islam. Right? Number 2, it is societal obligation upon everyone here to give da'wah. And this implies to both Muslims and non-Muslims. Number 3, there are 2 pillars of da'wah. Please understand there are 2 pillars of da'wah. First is the wisdom. Second one are the etiquettes. We need to focus on how to speak properly when it comes to our brothers and sisters, maybe from this religion or that religion. Number 4, make it easy for others. Don't go bashing them down. Make it easy for others. Make sure that they're relaxed when you're speaking to them. Right? Number 5, make sure that you're polite, and when you want to give them advice, you're in private. Don't make it public. Don't embarrass them. Right? I'm sure you wouldn't want to be in that position if you want to be, if you want to get advice. And the number 6 is remember the story of Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh. That advice I mentioned to you. Nobody here is a better da'i than Musa, and nobody here is worse than Pharaoh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Musa alayhi salam to speak to Pharaoh. Speak to Pharaoh in kind and polite words. Understand this. And finally, to the ones who are being addressed, you're bound to get some people who are harsh to you. Use that as a means to humble yourself. Inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأقم الصلاة